Hi, this is Frank Cohen. I'm the founder of AppVance and the CTO here. For the next 10 minutes, I'd like to brief you on the Integration Knowledge Kit. It's a method and set of tools for your organization to understand the best and least expensive way to build highly performing apps with service-oriented architecture and integration platforms. You may be wondering about AppVance. Well, let me talk about AppVance, the company. We're a technology company. AppVance technology makes sure your apps perform excellently and are secure every time they're used. These are some of the other businesses who use our products and services. The company has amassed 12 years of experience at helping our customers build high-performance and highly secure apps. That makes us the world leaders at building apps on integration platforms. One example of our expertise and leadership is that we're credited with helping Best Buy, the large U.S. retailer of electronics, make it past Black Friday, the big Christmas shopping day here in the U.S., for the past 3 years. On that day, their typical web, mobile, and store apps serve 20 times the normal load. While we test these apps at high levels of load and stress, we've also found that app security breaches are much more easy to achieve. And the problem here is while organizations have been spending nearly 90% of their security budget on network protection, more than 75% of the breaches have been happening at the app tier. And so using the AppVance technology, you're able to combine performance testing with app layer security testing so that your apps are no longer at risk and neither are your brands. AppVance delivers both products and services. The AppVance Enterprise platform is enterprise software that runs from a cloud environment or a private data center. It's a world-class functional and performance test solution for the enterprise. For services, we provide app performance certification so that you can identify the business risks of launching a new app ahead of time. We also do migration certification, so if you're moving from, say, one version of a platform to another, we would be able to certify that migration. We do white hat security and performance testing and validation. And also we do comparison analysis of the different integration platforms and apps that are out there. So let's talk about one of those projects, that is the Integration Knowledge Kit. We've been producing this kit for the last 4.5 years. It presents a single place where your organization can get objectives, methodology, lessons and patterns, and a set of results that will drive the total cost of ownership of you building apps on these integration platforms downwards. The way that we build the Integration Knowledge Kit is to define a use case, and in this case we chose a manufacturing use case. In the manufacturing use case, you've got an allocation of a new purchase order, then some human interaction where you reserve some parts against that PO, then an assignment of the purchase order price, and then a completion. So we implement the use case on the various different integration platforms that we've chosen, and this year we've chosen 5 of them. And then after we do the implementation, we ask our engineers to make changes to the implementation. For example, moving from HTTP to secure HTTPS protocols. Also changing the message schema and using message-oriented asynchronous delivery of the messages during this use case. We then run a functional and a performance test, and while we're doing all of this activity, we're keeping track of the hours that it takes for our engineers, architects, and project managers to achieve these apps. And by doing that, we can build a total cost of ownership model that highlights the differences in cost to build the same app across all of the different platforms that we've tested. So let me give you a very high-level view of what we found in this year's Integration Knowledge Kit. The 5 platforms that we chose were from TIBCO, IBM, Software AG, Oracle, and from Red Hat. In the case of TIBCO, we used the BusinessWorks with ActiveMatrix 5.11. And what we found is that after we got past a couple of pretty simple installation issues, the whole platform offered a very familiar and easy-to-use business process management-oriented way of building these apps. The composite approach, instead of a process-driven approach, really made it very easy for the engineers to implement the apps and then go back and make the changes. For IBM, we used Process Server which is part of the WebSphere process server. It's a superset of WebSphere application server with the WebSphere integration developer, and all of this was using their version 7.5. What we found was the overall experience was good. I mean, they had plenty of documentation and features and installation guides. Just what we found is that the platform overall is much bigger than it actually needs to be. And a lot of times it was missing kind of fit and finish that would slow the engineers' efforts down. For example, we would see plenty of out-of-memory exceptions after using the process server after a while. We implemented on Software AG's Web Methods platform using version 8 and 9. And what we found with Web Methods is that it's really pretty good, provided that the workflows that you're trying to implement in these apps are wholly contained within the Web Methods container. When you had to step outside of that container to, say, make SOAP or REST or JMS calls to external systems, that's where the developer productivity really suffered. On Oracle, we used their BPM server 11G. And what we found is that it was consistently kind of big and lumbering, and that slowed down the developers' productivity as they were building these apps. We found that plenty of their parts, too, after a while would either run out of memory or have to be reset, and that slowed us down as well. For Red Hat, we use the JBoss SOA platform, version 5.3.1, with JBoss's BPM 5 integration product. This was the closest that we got to kind of a do-it-yourself stack, which we find many engineers will try because they think, oh, it's all code. And the results at the end of the day is that the developer productivity on the Red Hat JBoss SOA platform was very low. It was the lowest of all of them. It was very heavy on kind of bottoms-up coding of these apps as opposed to top-down where you would define the interfaces first. And we found that there were multiple stacks involved that we had to get to integrate and work with one another. The out-of-box experience was really pretty poor. As a matter of fact, of these 5 platforms, I'd say Red Hat just didn't seem like it was even ready for the marketplace. By keeping track of the time it took for us to implement these apps across these 5 platforms, we were able to develop a TCO model for developer productivity that highlights the differences in the different platforms. So what we found is that TIBCO actually turned in the best performance or the lowest TCO overall. The combination of ActiveMatrix and BusinessWorks required less time and costs in our side-by-side comparison of the implementations. TIBCO turned out to be 35% less expensive than JBoss, for example, 20% less expensive than Oracle, 14% less expensive than Web Methods, and 10% less expensive than IBM. The areas that we saw the greatest productivity gains from the TIBCO platform were around the initial service construction. It was really pretty easy with the TIBCO platform to get started, and then when we needed to make those changes, what we found is that TIBCO again gave us the best developer productivity. The ActiveMatrix portion of the TIBCO platform made the deployment costs really inexpensive because ActiveMatrix seems to be all about deployment, whereas the others made it really difficult for deployment to the point at which with JBoss we were editing XML files by hand. Now, if you'd like to see all of this firsthand, we've taken the extraordinary step of distributing the Integration Knowledge Kit under an open source license. So if you go to www.appvance.com/kit, you'll be able to download all of the Knowledge Kit, including the comparison of developer productivity between the 5 platforms we tested on. You'll also be downloading the actual source code for the app and for the services. We asked the engineers to keep a diary as they were going through this implementation, and we call them developer journals. There are 5 developer journals, 1 for each platform, and most of them are 30 to 50 pages long, and those will show your engineers how to avoid the same pitfalls that we dropped into. We also include an executive slide deck and then the TCO model, which is implemented as a spreadsheet. And of course, the functional and performance tests that you can run on the AppVance Enterprise platform come with this kit as well. So I hope what you've seen here today is that AppVance is a pioneer and thought leader in the app performance and security space, and that we address the scalability and security in all your internal and external apps by providing AppVance Enterprise as a software product, and also the services to implement against your efforts to make sure that your apps are successful and that your brands are successful. I would encourage everybody listening to this to take the next steps, identify the performance and pain points you need to solve in your own apps, evaluate your integration server choice using our Integration Knowledge Kit, and give us a call at 855-254-1164 here in the United States, or email us at sales@appvance.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope the Integration Knowledge Kit is a huge value to your organization.